This conference will now be recorded.
How is everybody?
Good.
Awesome. John, did you get your wiring thing taken care of?
We're still playing with that. We had it working, and then I don't know. He's going to talk to me again tonight about it.
Okay. All right. I think I looked in on the ticket a while back, but I haven't checked it lately. I don't know if y'all are still working through that or not, but I'll try to keep my finger on the pulse. If you have anything, let us know. So, all right. Well, like I said, if anybody has any questions, fire away. That's kind of what this is for. I've got a few things. I made a couple of articles about the screws in the door. You know, that's that obscure thing in the manual. I actually made an article about it. So, and I'm working on a new cheat sheet, a 2.0 version that's got a full table of contents and in a little bit better order and has a little bit of structure. So that's the kind of stuff I've been doing. So that's all I got that's new. Chris, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. I figured out my banding issue.
Banding issue?
Like 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
What was happening, I was getting, well, for those who didn't see the post online in the group, I was getting these lines on a tile, spray paint tile, etch away the paint, and just as random as could be, I'd go 2 tiles with no issues, and then same speed, same settings, and then I'd start to get these lines in the middle, and not all of them looked like the power banding issues that you were describing. So it kind of threw me off.
I actually didn't see that. Let me pull it up. What group did you have that posted in?
In the global Thunder laser users.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been on sessions, so I haven't been on there very much today to even look. Let me see if you got pictures and stuff in there.
Yeah, there's some photos in there. It might be buried. I posted it the other day.
Let's see. Is it that one?
Yeah, that's the first one, I think. But there's been a couple. See them lines there?
Yeah. What did you discover?
Well, it was a really low tech issue. I brought this with you to show you. This is the 4-inch lens, but the bottom of the lens where the air blows out, it was blowing paint back up onto the nozzle, and the laser was deflecting off of that paint and making lines on the tile.
Gotcha. You might want to try that fat nozzle, the one with the 6mm orifice, the one in the toolbox.
That's the one I'm using.
Oh, is it? Oh, and it was doing that?
Yep.
Just use the air assist.
Wow.
Yep, I'm using the air assist on high. So I'm going to switch out, finally do the work.
No, I think you need to have low. You need to have almost 0 air, because what you're doing is blowing down into your work, and it's blowing it right back up onto the nozzle because it has nowhere to go.
No, I was talking about the nozzle, the secondary air, not the actual air assist from the nozzle.
Oh, you're talking about one of those deals where you introduce the air parallel to the substrate, the enhancer thing. Yeah, but I mean, if you have low enough air, it shouldn't really get on your nozzle. It might still, settle on your work. Because think about it like this: when you're cutting, it's all nice and clean because all that stuff's going out the bottom. It has somewhere to go. You're blowing it through the kerf and it's being ejected out the bottom of the material. But when you're engraving, any of that byproduct from lasing that's left over is getting blown around by that air assist. So if you're blowing at it really hard, it's gonna just splatter that stuff all over everywhere. Typically, you want almost 0 air when you're engraving, so that it keeps the nozzle, keeps the lens clean, but not blow the stuff around, basically.
That's what I normally do, but in this case, maybe I need to change paint. I'm using some nice high quality Krylon stuff, and
use some cheap paint.
Yeah.
Well, that was my other question. How did you check to see how much your paint had actually cured with the temperature changes and humidity changes we're seeing? could actually change the cure rate on your paint itself. And if I would be willing to bet you've got some kind of curing issue that paint's not completely set up, that you could be
Oh
blowing
no,
back.
it dries in the shop, and my shop is 4 degrees. Yeah, I've got a little paint area with an exhaust fan, and I paint.
You may try a different paint. Have you seen that that engraving enhancer? Some people care for it more than others. Let me pull it up real quick.
I haven't seen that. And when I use low air, by the way, because first chance I got to address that, when I use low air, it the paint particles stay on the tile, and when it gets to the next few lines,
bakes it. Yeah, it gets gross. Yeah. This is that enhancer nozzle. Oh, that's a terrible picture. Let me see if there's a better one. But basically, it blows the air across the material instead of straight down. Let me.
Oh, like a K40 does.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like the copper brick line. You know, that Epilogue uses it. ULS uses that type. You know, the conical nozzle is great for cutting.
Right.
Let me see if I can find a picture of it here in working. There we go. So this is without it. That's just using the nozzle that comes with the machine.
Right.
And then the one next to it, it still leaves. You're still going to have debris just because you're still burning the same stuff up. But see what it does? It blows it to the rear. So it's sweeping it as you go along toward the back. See the difference?
Yep.
And then you're also keeping your nozzle clean because you're blowing all that stuff parallel to the substrate. You're just dusting the substrate. So it's not blowing back up on the nozzle. You're actually sweeping your nozzle and keeping it clean.
This last tile, I threw it out of focus by about 1/16 of an inch, and it stayed clean the whole time. But obviously, you know, if I need to do something that's real fine detailed, not optimal.
Sure. And I was going to ask you about those things you make, those patches.
Sure.
It looks like you have a huge, I didn't mean to jump off tangent. We can jump back on there, but I've been intrigued by those because I personally don't get it. But it looks like there is a huge cult following on those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I like to describe it to people that don't know about it as a man's club. So more, you know, is more accurate, because it's like 99% guys in their mid 30s to 40s, and it's nostalgia really is what you're buying into. They're collector patches. So like you know, like a police patch would go on your arm, but these are Velcro patches. You probably seen some patches before, some collector patches, but these ones, they all have the community has decided on a standard format of the hook Velcro on the back, and there's like 200 250 makers and brands in that group, and they all sell limited number highly collectible patches. I just make mine with the laser, so that's different.
Gotcha. That's cool. I've been seeing it, and I kind of wondered. I knew there was something to it because there's a lot of buzz about it on that group, you know. But I wasn't getting it all. But that's really cool.
Thanks.
Finding a niche like that.
What are these patches? I've not seen them.
Let's see. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there. I'll just pull up some.
The CO2 to cut the backings, and I use my fiber to actually etch that there's a memorial patch for one of the guys that just passed away, and I made that and donated those to raise money for his family.
Nice. Let's see.
All right.
I'll just scroll through. Oh wow, there's a whole bunch.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest collectors there. His daughter got into his collection and started pulling them off. She's actually standing with you.
Yeah, that's some neat stuff. with the hex bolts and all that stuff in there. That looks neat. It's kind of industrial looking.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
they
the
all have.
packaging's cool too.
Oh, the package is a must because they break in the mail. Postal Service likes to kick packages around.
Sure, sure. All right. I didn't mean to jump off your air assist thing, but I just thought that was neat.
That was pretty much it, you know.
Yeah. You might want to try one of those enhancers. You may find a benefit from it. I did. There's still a little bit of cleanup, but it's all at the back, and usually it's out of the engraving by that time because it keeps sweeping it toward the back. So
Where'd
maybe
you
an
get those,
option.
Brian?
There's a link. Let me put that in the link. I'll go back to the page and which one was it? There we go. I think there's a link in here. I'll copy it and paste it in the somewhere. Oh, linked here. See if the link still works. Sometimes they've been moving stuff around. There we go. Light Object sells it.
Okay.
And there's a code, Thunder. If you use code Thunder on checkout, I think they give you 5% off. I worked out a deal with them where they give Thunder members, because we get all of our tubes, all of our SPT and REC tubes that aren't warranty from Light Object, because they're a certified reseller. They're in California. They ship fast and they rotate their stock and keep track of it. You know, so and that's better than us trying to do it. So
I've been to that person. That's a really cool place.
yeah, Marco does a lot of fiber lasers, like 4,000 watt fiber lasers and stuff like that for industrial applications. And it's a big outlet for the DIY people that are building their own lasers, you know, power supplies and parts. And yeah, but Light Object's good stuff. So Marco, it's a good company, and they sell lasers like Thunder does too. I don't consider them necessarily competition. We've never crossed paths, and me and Marco get along real good. They're good to us. So.
Seen a couple different versions of how people are hooking that up as far as tying into their existing air and stuff. Have y'all found one that looks better than others?
Some people, let me go back and see if I can find it again. I hooked mine up and ran a totally separate line. And so mine now, all of my low pressure air goes through the extender and all the high pressure air comes out the nozzle. So, and I've got a video here about how I installed that, but I ran an additional 6mm air line to the gantry, to the head. And then I just ran those straight to the relays, straight to the adjustments, you know. So, and there's some documentation. There's some people put a splitter on there and have a little air going to their nozzle and a little bit to the extender. It's kind of up to you. In its most basic form, just unplug your air assist thing from your nozzle and plug it onto that one when you want to use it. Basically, you know, would be a simple way.
Is there, and then you take cooling air away from the nozzle at that point, though.
Well, the lens technically doesn't get hot if it's working right. If it's passing all the laser beam and not absorbing any of it, it won't get that hot. So the smoke, it's the positive pressure in that nozzle more than anything is just to keep the smoke away from it, not really to cool the lens.
Yeah.
But you're creating an air curtain across the orifice with that nozzle, and it's actually creating a Venturi effect and sucking the air out of the nozzle, I would imagine, a little bit if you have it positioned correctly. But at the very least, you know, when you go into a convenience store or Kroger and they got that big squirrel cage fan when you open the first set of doors and it blows down on you, and then you walk in, that's an air curtain. It keeps the bugs out and the hot air out and the cold air in and that kind of stuff. And it works kind of the same way on this nozzle. So if you blow air across the nozzle, theoretically, none of the smoke should go into the nozzle.
Sorry, if you're using that, are you going to use a little bit more air than you normally would when you're engraving through just the standard nozzle air system?
That one, the tip of the nozzle shows in their documentation or one of their pictures that it's crimped. It almost looks like they did not come crimped. I was thinking about taking a pair of pliers and crimping it so I can make the air fan out into a flatter, more like a ribbon. To accomplish what I was talking about, but this moves quite a bit more air than the 2-inch nozzle, so you will need to adjust your air pressure up a little bit to compensate, because it moves more air than the stock nozzle.
Brian, have you tried it with the Beam Buddy with the HR lens to see if it keeps the debris off the bottom of it?
No, because I'm not good enough to use the Beam Buddy yet, so I haven't used that lens either. I linked that full article to that engraver that we were referencing in that chat as well. But no, I haven't, and I know that the HR head is one of those that gets extremely nasty, and I haven't heard any feedback if anybody's used that. Maybe I ought to try that. I'm gonna have to pull out the HR head because when I get that Odin 32, I'm gonna put it head to head against that 3580, and I have a feeling I'm gonna have to get my beam diameter down a little bit to be able to compete with it. So I'll give it a try then because I'll be able to do it. So.
Yeah, on the Odin, does it use the same lenses as the Nova?
No, actually, they just came up with some new. They said that I would like it. I haven't seen it except in the picture, but they made a drastic change on the head. Let me find it real quick. Pop back in here on. So let's see. They might have a picture of it. I think I made an article even. Let me see if I made an article on the Odin lenses. I may not have.
Static going on.
Yeah, there's some noise in the background. Let me go back. No, I must have closed my window out. Hang tight. They're very similar to the Epilogue and stuff now, in Trotec and ULS. So they're glued in lenses on an aluminum frame, on a mount. I swear I had a picture of it.
Okay. Yeah, so you've got the little. You actually change the lens rather than the whole nozzle. And
yeah, I think we're getting close.
It's a slide-in tray.
It is.
It goes between the upper beam port and then the lower focal. It just slides into a small slit.
Newly designed focus. Here we go. Let's see if it'll show it. A better one. Yeah, there we go. So it just slides out like that. Yeah. And the mirrors are enclosed somewhat, so that kind of helps. It's not just wide open like the others. And it comes in 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and 4 inch, I think, are the lens sizes.
Are your mirrors.
Yeah, those are. And they do use gold mirrors, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. We use SI mirrors on those.
The upper one I think is the actual silver. The lens. Yeah, that one's the lens.
Yeah, but it'll come in that mount, so you'll have to, maybe fit it to that piece. But I don't know. That may come with it. I think the lenses come with the little piece of aluminum. I think it's all one module. You just slide it in. So, and you'll notice they have a similar. Yeah, they don't have the conical nozzle either. They've got more Epilogue-ish with a little nozzle that's coming down at about a 45 for the air assist. So I'm not sure how that'll do on really, really thick stuff because we have enough power now that we could probably power through some 1/2 inch, but that air is not going to be going straight down in the curve. It's going to be hitting it at an angle. So I'll have to see how well the air assist helps with the cuts on thicker stuff, especially. So I'm looking forward to that if they ever send it. So they should be sending it soon.
What do you got running behind your head there, Brian?
Oh, it's a little battery-operated little planetary 3D cool thingy.
Oh, okay. I was sitting here going, what in the heck is that? Yeah.
Sometimes when I get flustered, I stare at it. So, I had something else that I was going to show you, and I forgot what it was now. Yep, can't remember. Okay. I talked about last week the new fans that are going to be coming out with the Thunders at some point, the Novas. No more centrifugal fans. They'll all be the inline quiet fans. So 6 and 8 inch.
They need to make a, like those ionic breezes where they don't have any fan blades or anything. They use, I don't know how to describe it. Induction. It's basically an induction fan.
Yeah.
Where there's no blades or anything. It just basically a venturi. It forces air out one end and it creates a vacuum.
Like a Dyson.
Something like that. Because these fans, once they get coated with soot and debris and stuff, like I have a Affinity Air 6 inch that I use for my fiber laser, and I've used it. I mean, I use it to engrave the rotobosses and stuff, but I used it probably half a dozen times, and the fan quit. I opened it up, and it's just covered with stuff. I mean, obviously maintenance, but I wouldn't think after
Yeah.
a
Well,
handful of uses it would be coated up that much.
The other thing
But
on CO2, you don't have very many metallized particles in that mix, but on a fiber you do. I wonder
yeah,
if that could short it down or something.
well, I
Um,
haven't called Affinity about it yet because they sent me some to try out with the fiber because they're
mhm.
mostly CO2. So I'm gonna have to get with them and let them know what I found out and see if maybe the metal particles are getting in there and ruining the bearings or the motor armatures or something.
It shouldn't. I've ran my fan. I've got an inline fan from Amazon. I've been running with my fiber for 3
Okay.
years.
Yeah, they should be sealed
Well,
to
no, I
dust and
know
stuff. So whether the
I've got.
particles are magnetic or metal or not shouldn't matter that much. Maybe.
I mean, I've got a cheap Amazon booster fan that I used before I got the Affinity Air. So and it's been working. I mean, it's you pull that thing apart, it's completely black and got a layer of crust inside of it, and it still works fine. But for
Right.
whatever reason, that Affinity Air, something's gummed it up because I can turn it on and I can spin the fan, and it'll
Static.
start up.
It could have just failed. I
Unless
mean,
there's a start and run capacitor in there, and maybe the start capacitor is
yeah,
weak or it's failed.
yeah, it's not a cap start.
Um,
It's a 24-volt DC motor. So,
well, yeah,
um, but
I have to get with
it
them
could
and
have
let
just
them
been
know
a crap
too.
fan. I mean,
It,
it doesn't happen much, but I've seen like 3 of them. I've seen, I think, 3 instances where the cloud lines where somebody said that one of them
yeah,
crept to bed a little early. So it could just be that. But yeah, Chris is right. Now that I think about it, I guess everybody has to have some sort of exhaust on their fiber, you
oh
know,
yeah,
and even if you've got a smoke extractor, fume extractor, it's still going to have it. So yeah,
yeah. You can't run a fiber without some sort of extraction because you get, especially when you're dealing with the metal.
yeah,
The aluminum is what I found is mostly steel and stuff like that. It's not so bad, but aluminum, that stuff just goes airborne and
Hey,
it
Ryan,
gets in your lungs, and my
yeah.
that's how I knew
Oh,
the fan failed because I started getting this heavy feeling in my sinuses. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
uh,
And I look over there and the fan's not running. I'm like, oh, well, that explains it.
that'll do it. Yeah. Did you try that washer trick? Did you have any luck? My lead screw's a
Yeah,
little bent.
yeah, we actually took your advice and we're gonna implement that into everything going out from now on. Um,
It's
I
not
mean,
perfect, but it works well
well, no,
enough,
but
you
here,
know?
I got it's a 3/8 washer with a 1-inch shoulder.
Okay. So you got more grip on it. You can have more,
Yeah,
yeah.
here, I'll show you. Let me grab the rotary here. All right. So, I mean, yours is a lot smaller. And this one actually makes it a lot easier to use.
Okay.
So with the washer on there, let me see how big. Maybe you can see how big the washer is.
I
I mean,
see.
it's
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
pretty good size.
Hmm.
But when you pull on it, it just slides right out of the way. Push on it, goes back, and it's very little pressure. And then you can still, obviously, you can fine tune it with the
Yeah.
knob as well. But yeah, that's gonna start going out. Excuse me, I catch my breath here. It's gonna start going out that way from here on out. We got probably 30 or 40 new units that went out without it before we decided to kind of look into it and go with it. So,
Hmm.
but it's a quick fix. You can go to the hardware store and get a 3/8 washer, and it'll work just fine. But
Yeah. I made a
they
little
will be,
article. I'll put it in the chat in case anybody wants to see it.
but they will be standard from here on out with those.
Nice.
So, and it slides okay without it. But it definitely helps unlock that backlash
That
nut.
one direction especially. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that one direction, the sliding away or
Yeah.
out is the hardest because you got that backlash nut that keeps it from moving. But yeah, it definitely helps.
Awesome.
Hey, on that enhancement nozzle, there's 2 sizes. Apparently, when you go to the website, there's 2 sizes. 26 and a 25/1, 21.
Let me look and see. I believe the link actually goes to just one of them. Let me make sure that it's right. And it looks like I used the 21 millimeter diameter. It's the 21/26 because it'll have that spacer with it, that ring.
Yeah, it says yeah, once you go to the website, though, it says something different. That's why I'm asking about it. See, if you go.
Okay, this is the long tip. Yeah, that's the one you want, is the long tip.
See, but look underneath fitting diameter. There's a 26. No, too low. Right there.
Yeah, you want the 21.
25/21.
25/21. And what it'll be is that little spacer, that little ring, is how you get if you need 25, but you won't use it. That'll slide directly onto your nozzle. Oh no, I'm sorry, you will need that. You'll have to put that little spacer in because the diameter of this is 25 on the inside, or a little bigger. Yeah. So this will bring you down to 21 millimeters.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what's the right one because it fits K40, so I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, the 21 millimeters is the one you're looking for.
All right, thanks.
What has been the biggest complaint on the centrifugal blower that came with it versus I know the other one's nicer than but mostly the noise?
Noise. It wasn't performance. They're plenty, substantial to run those machines, but it's definitely the noise.
Well, I've got mine mounted in the attic, so I don't hear it, so it doesn't bother me.
Right.
The one I have is nice, and I mean, comparatively to other ones, mine's pretty quiet, I think.
Yeah. Well, see, the 24s come with a different fan.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. You got the bigger machines come with the big bell. The big bell.
Yeah. Well, up until now, it was a CT.
Yeah, because I have a radial. Or axial blower. You have or vice versa.
The centrifugal. Yeah.
Centrifugal.
Yeah. So you've got a W150. Yep. Those come on the Nova 24s and the Mini 60s.
Okay, yeah, those things are nice. They're not the quietest thing in the world, but they're not that bad.
Right. They're not classified as ultra quiet, but they're not noisy either, for sure. I'll put it this way. Nobody that's gotten a 24 that I know of bought an actual Cloudline fan because this one is plenty sufficient and was plenty quiet enough.
Yeah. So I was sent one to try out, but I haven't tried it out yet.
Yeah, this is the noisy dude right there. That's that big. Yeah.
That draws a lot more amps in the Cloud too. If you look at the electric, both of them.
It does, and that's also why there's a lot more spool up time on those DC axial fans, is because it's got a lot weaker motor in it, so it takes a while to spool up to the speed that it needs to get to move that air.
Right,
they are.
Yeah. But if you ever looked on Amazon, and I can't see his name, but the one next to you on the screen there,
Chris.
He said he got an Amazon one. I don't know if he's talking about the big one or not, but they have the Amazon ones. They're centrifugal, but they're like a turbo almost.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen them. It comes with a dampening pad that goes on them.
It draws the air in. It draws the air in the center, forces it around the outside, and then blows it out the back. So there's no actual fan blades. They're like an impeller system.
Right.
Like I said, it sucks it in, it blows it around the outer casing, and then it throws it out the other side.
Yeah, I've got that on the fiber. That's
that one right there, the Vortex, kind of like that. Those right there. Yep.
That style.
Those things are awesome.
That's what I've got.
See, that one looks like it's a regular fan. The one I have is almost like an impeller system.
Yeah.
So it's got the intake and the exhaust like not parallel with the.
They're parallel. They're parallel. It basically sucks the air in, blows it around the outer part of that housing, and then on the other side there's another like impeller type blade, and as it spins, it blows the air out, and the motor's attached to the one side of it.
Gotcha.
On the X side, I think. I can't remember which side it's on. But yeah, those things they're quiet. I think mine's got like 480 or 400 and something CFM. So I mean, it's plenty big enough for even the large machine that I have it running on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the big fan that came with the Nova 63, I had to put it outside in the shed. I put my air compressor and the exhaust fan like 3 feet from my shop outside in a shed, and just cut a big hole in the wall, plumbing out.
Those big green fans will handle the weather pretty well. I had heard from someone at one time, those are basically the same fans that they use in silos and grain elevators to move air and, that kind of stuff.
Same principle, yeah.
Same kind of motor, made probably the same way. And there are people, including Clay, his machines over in Texas, he is sitting outside just on concrete pads in the open. They weren't covered or anything. And they lasted, I don't know, 5-6 years. So some of them are probably still going.
Yeah,
they're bulletproof, but man, they're loud. They're energy inefficient.
It runs. Yeah, luckily I got unlimited electricity here. I pay a flat rate for my shop, like 280, no matter how much I use.
Huh.
Good thing about
crypto mining. That's what you do. Not to get that canceled real quick. Yeah, when I lived in Houston, I signed a year contract with the cooperative there. It was a flat rate, and then after a year, it more than quadrupled what they wanted to renew it at.
Yeah, one of the provisions in the new contract when I re-upped last year was no crypto mining.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, looks like my kids are coming down the road. I'll see you guys.
All right, man. Take care. Let me know if that thing does anything else goofy.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
All right. Take care.
Yes, something I got to.
Hang on, let me switch a key. Oh, for your place?
Yeah.
Cool. Expansion. That's good. Growing pains are good, right? Most of the time.
As long as they stay pains and the pain doesn't go away.
As long as you stay growing, yeah.
As long as the pain don't go away, it's all good.
Right.
Hey, Brian, I have a question.
Yeah, buddy. How's it going, man?
How are you? It's good, good. I don't know if you've ever seen these. They're like inline carbon filters that they sell them on Amazon, and they seem to be marketed toward grow rooms, like people who are growing pot.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently they're designed to take the odor out of an exhaust before it leaves the room. And I'm curious, yes, just like that. Curious if
the fans are marketed to
curious
that as well,
if something like that in line would help for, we're planning on cutting and engraving a lot of leather. And I know that it's a little bit stinky, and I'm wondering if that might be something that could
just make sure it puts lotion on. Make sure it puts lotion on its skin first.
I haven't seen too many people talk about these things, honestly. And I think
I couldn't find anything on the Facebook page. I did a search.
You would see it. Yeah, you would see it peppered in there. I've seen it in some of the Chinese groups, in some of the generic groups.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, as long as you can efficiently evacuate it outside, I mean, I don't know that you'd want to put anything else in line that could possibly, there's got to be some sort of restriction there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be filtering anything. And all it would do is make the outside air smell a little better, possibly. You know what I'm saying? Oh,
right.
Well, it blows straight back out into the room.
But it was kind of a nod to neighbors. I live in I live in suburbia, and I've got neighbors, and I thought, well, if it starts kind of stinking up, the driveway, it might, start permeating over to, the people next door. And I was just trying to think ahead. And I know that the, those big box, fume eater things are, run into the multi-$1,000s, and I was looking for a way to.
The way that I don't think that's an inline filter. I think it just stubs off on the end, which means it had to be on the outside if you wanted to filter that air before it got to your neighbors. I think. Again, I haven't used one of these. Yeah, it is.
You're right.
It blows it out through the filter.
It either filters air coming in or it filters air going out, but it's closed off on one end.
Okay. So I don't see a benefit in that. I think it might help the smell a little bit until it clogs up, and then it'll be a constant headache.
Right. Okay.
Um, I've
What?
cut some leather, and again, I don't run my machine all day long every day, but I'm in a cul-de-sac with a couple other houses fairly close, and I've been cutting because I do a lot of tests. I cut all kinds of. I've got some ABS and HDPE, and I cut all kinds of plastics and stuff, composites. And if I hadn't had the police called on me yet, you know what I mean?
Are you
Yeah. Okay.
are you venting it? You're doing it in the garage? You decided, right? Or are you still
Yeah.
entertaining that room?
I'm going to be set up in the garage. Yes.
Now, are you going to be punching a hole in the wall for your vent?
Yes.
I would recommend. They're chimney flues, basically, is what I'm trying to allude to here. Like if you put it up towards the soffit of your house and have it kind of shoot out past your soffit and then turn up, yeah, like something like that, to where
Yeah. I've got a bedroom.
dissipates.
I got a bedroom above my garage,
Okay.
so I can't go up. I got to go out.
Well, you're going out through the wall, right, to the outside.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying like up toward the ceiling?
Yeah, like
You
what he's
talking
got
about?
on the screen now. I don't know if you can see it because you're driving, but it basically it dumps it out at the highest point you can get on the garage.
Uh-huh.
And
That's for a pellet grill, but
Yep. Well,
Right.
yeah,
I get the idea. I get the
they
idea.
they make something like that where you can eject the smoke as high as you can because obviously smoke rises.
Right.
So the higher you can get it out of the house, the less likely your neighbors are probably to smell it, at least in the general area where your house is.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I mounted mine about head high, about 6 feet high on my wall, just
Uh-huh.
just arbitrarily. I had no rhyme or reason to it. I just knew that I thought that being high up would be better than it blowing down on the ground and dissipating that way.
Right. Uh-huh.
But they're about 6 feet high. My vent's going straight out, and they blow down. They're the 6-inch vent hood, like in the article with the flapper in it. And the only time I ever get any smells is if I have my garage door open, but most of the time it dissipates up. In the winter, you might get some cold smoke. Stuff tends to hang lower in the wintertime just because of the density of the air and that kind of thing. But
Right.
I don't know. I think I'd try it first and see if it gave you a lot of problems. Then you can mitigate it. I mean, I know you want to be
If your
prepared.
neighbors complain, tell them don't burn wood in their fireplaces either.
Well, it depends on if you how good are your neighbors.
Well, I might find out very soon how good they are.
Because you're in New York. You're in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What difference does that make?
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sure what difference that makes, but
no. Well, they're really strict about a lot of things, a lot of state
Yeah. Well,
things.
that's true. The environmental stuff.
So the problem with that, and I'm just shooting off the hip here, but the problem with that is if you test it and the neighbors know about it and they report you for doing business or whatever out of your house, is that going to be a problem?
Right. Well,
You know what I'm
like I
saying?
said, I've never tested them. They've never tested me either, so I don't know. We've we've been mutually fine, but
Well,
you
no,
know,
I'm not
You
trying to
could
say
make them something on the laser and go, hey, check out this cool stuff I make on the laser. I just want to let
There
you
you
know if you
go.
ever see any weird smells over there, please come and let me know and I'll stop what I'm doing. But I just
right.
and they may be like, okay,
But
that's fine, whatever.
I'm just saying if they report him and you're not
Yeah.
allowed to run a business out of your house, especially if you're in an HOA or it better in my opinion it's better to mitigate from the start
Right.
Yeah, sure.
than it is to test the waters, especially with the way people like to tattle on people these days. And
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
know that if push comes to shove, there is a $5,000 solution out there. I'm just I'm trying to think ahead a little bit. I don't
Sure.
really know what to expect. So
just
I'm going
keep
to
in
find
mind
out
that
soon enough.
$5,000 solution, depending on how much you use it, can turn into a 10,000, a 15,000, a
Right.
20,000 because
The
Right.
the media would have to be changed accordingly. And
Right.
that stuff's not exactly cheap, and then you got to dispose of it. And
Yep.
so it could be a bigger headache than it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth talking to them, letting them know you're doing it. Like Brian said, maybe make something. But what you don't want them to do is report you because they think something else is going on as well, right?
Right,
You know,
right.
Yeah, they
yeah,
might think you're cooking
you,
meth or something.
meth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
For all I
a-
know, they'd be good customers. I'm not really
that's
sure,
one.
you know.
That would be one of them slippery slopes though, because
I thought that
you're
was
kind
an
of damned if
accepted
you do and
practice
damned if you
now.
don't.
Right.
'Cause if you let
Yeah.
them know and then they don't want you doing it, and then they report you, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Or if you don't let them know,
Or
so
you
if
could,
you don't,
yeah, I still think that works pretty good as, hey, I made you this. You don't even have to say you're a business. You're just a woodworker. You know what I mean? It's your
Right.
hobby.
yeah,
Look what I made. I thought you might think they're pretty cool. You can hang it up in your door. I think that would really break a whole bunch of stuff down instead of them coming out at 1 a.m. going, I smell something, Richard, call the cops.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
why's it got to be Richard?
I don't know. Why is it
What's
got to
the
be?
What's the wife name? Karen?
Mildred. She's Mildred.
Mildred. Richard and Mildred. So
There you go.
let me turn this thing off for a little while. I think I'm still sharing. There we go. All right. Well, like I said, if anybody's got anything,
Robert,
feel
are you
free
in
to
here?
fill in the 20 minutes that we have left.
Does anybody
Robert,
have you replaced any of the cabinet fans? Mine are starting to get pretty noisy. I blow them out and they rattle around and then they'll stop for a while.
We've had an uptick in those a little bit. Robert was like the second or third one, and we've had probably 6 since then that we've sent out of 2,000 machines or so. But if you'll submit a ticket to support at Thunder Laser USA, we'll get you some fans out so
Okay.
that you can replace those. So,
You get, I would get these
Nocturna,
Noctuas.
Noctuas, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
They're
until I get they've packed all my parts that I need.
This isn't the right size. This is just one I have.
In my laser machine, so that they don't have to pay. They can put all of it in, pack it all in there together. So all of my parts I'm waiting for that are like that to restock are still in China or on the way over. So right now I'm getting them off Amazon Prime, and I'm picking just some 80mm Chinese fans because that's what we'd get from China anyway. Only difference is they don't have the connectors on them. They're not pre-terminated. So I usually include some quick connects or some, screw terminal connectors or something like that with it so that it'll facilitate an easy replacement.
Yeah, these are actually pretty cheap now. Have you looked at those lately?
Not lately.
Like this is the 4x10 I use for my 3D printers to cool the head or the motors, but these are like $12 for one of these.
Yeah, they're good fans.
An 80mm would probably only be $25 or so.
China's looking at what is going on with the fans because we report everything, and so they're looking to see if they got a bad batch or maybe their vendor is slipping or something. So they're getting on it on their end because they certainly don't like to have to send out fans,
Yeah, right.
Even though it's not a huge inconvenience, it's not a lot of expense, but
$30 to send a $5 fan.
Yeah, they get enough. They get enough supplies that they can say you're going to fix this or we'll go somewhere else, and they will. They try to find the best stuff. So,
Robert, you want to talk about your 2-wheel hold down modification on your dog bowl?
Oh, that wasn't a modification on my end. That came with the new rotary.
Yeah, so I got one.
I'll set the record straight with that. It's called a bottle clamp. It was made to hold down bottles. But like Robert found out and other people have found out, it's good for distributing the weight across the bowl so it's not so wobbly or tipsy. As well as, other things. People use them on those big the gallon sized growlers or jugs to hold them down on the inside to kind of disperse the weight out a little bit across the wheels to give it a better contact patch. But yeah, it was designed as a bottle clamp, but it has other uses.
Is it this part right here that came in them?
No, that's the mug spacer.
Okay, it's not that mug spacer.
There's the mug spacer.
I didn't get that part then.
There's a rectangular block. I don't know if you have it, but the newer ones within the past, I think 4 to 6 months, has a rectangular block that you can place on one side or the other to take up varying distances between the wheels, mainly
Yeah, I
for
got
people that do like wine glasses and stuff. So you
So
can
we'll
put the
fall back
wine,
behind it.
so you can
Yeah.
put the wine glass, the base of it right up against the thing, and it's still sitting on the rubber wheel or the rubber O-rings. Whereas before it would
So
fall
where
off
did the
the
one?
back huh?
So where's the one that Robert got? When did that one come into play?
That one's been around for since
Right
the
after you bought
creation.
yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I was
just
gonna say
I
I never
decided
got that.
I decided to make it right after you got yours. No, the
Damn.
bottle clamp's something that's been around forever since
I
the
got it.
beginning.
I got one here.
But previously with
Yeah.
Thunder, it wasn't part of the package. Whereas is now
I was gonna say
with the addition of the metal rotaries, any and every accessory that's available to each respective rotary comes with each respective rotary. So there's no more options. It's just everybody gets the same exact thing.
So we all should call it the full Monty.
Sure. Or
I think you
Except Jim didn't get the full Monty. He didn't get his rollers.
Yeah, I didn't get the full money, and I haven't had mine that long.
He's from
You
Ohio.
have to upgrade. Yeah.
I will tell you, though, doing those dog bowls, because I did a lot of them on my 24, and with the low roller, the only way to do those dog bowls is to back out the right part of your rotary and switch out your dog bowl that way. This way, I don't have to touch a rotary. I can switch it out just like a tumbler. So it's a huge time saving for me.
Yeah. Well, actually, on the low roller with that bottle clamp, which it does not come with, the only one that comes with that bottle clamp is the Rotoboss, because that's the only one that's really designed to handle bottles in a roundabout way. Everything else is made for just tumblers. But if you use that same bottle clamp on a low roller, since the wheels are already spread out farther, you get even that much more holding power or stability out
Positive
of it when you use
engagement.
it. Yeah. Which it's available on the website separately for those machines, but they're not designed to use it, so that's not an accessory that's specifically for it. But just like you can swap out the small wheels with bigger wheels to get more adjustment or more flexibility out of the low roller, putting big wheels on one side, small wheels on the other, or vice versa, depending on what you're doing to give it a little bit more flexibility, is also an option as well. But eventually, the low roller will probably be going away with the advent of some other stuff I'm working on right now.
Speaking of
can
your
I-
other stuff, how's your triple rotary coming?
The monstrosity.
Yeah. Yes, I saw the video on that. I'm guessing you were working with Travis on that.
No, well, no.
I know he'd asked about
Like
it or something similar.
Here's the limousine. It works pretty good. Because the problem is you're running off the drive wheels, so you only got one point of drive. Everything else is friction based. With two of them, it works pretty good. With three of them, you're putting so much drag on it that it's slipping on the head unit, and obviously it kind of works its way down. But for just two of them, it works, and I've actually got a clamp that goes on to the backside so you can clamp it, but it's not practical. It was just something that popped into my head after talking to somebody, and I just threw it together to see how it would look or function. And I mean, it works, but I don't think it's practical for.
So on the one that
Unless
you recess, you need a magazine, a refillable magazine, and you fill it full of 4 cups. And when one's done, the next one pops into place.
Auto feeder.
Yeah.
Like a turret.
Do you like the
yeah,
turntable on the fibers?
Yeah.
Well, for something like this, where it would benefit anybody would be like if you're doing stuff in between engravings, right? Instead of spending 5 minutes on engraving, you'll spend about 8 to 10 minutes doing 2 of them. So if you're doing things other than engraving, you can kind of do a little bit of this, and then come back and swap them out. It gives you a little
Yeah.
bit more time between having to switch back and forth from whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But other
Although
than that, if you're looking at speed, I don't think it will gain you much.
I don't either, because if I can do a cup in 1 minute and 58 seconds, just a little plain logo, that's just
Yep.
enough time for me to open the cup that I'm going to do next and pull the foam off of it and get ready to pack, and I put it in, hit the button.
Yep.
That gives me time to package the last one and then get the next one open. And it's a perfect amount of time to
Yep.
constantly stay busy and not have to really wait on anything. So
Well,
it's
like
a
a
real
20
smooth
20
work.
ounces.
And is that hitting it
me-
with like LA Awesome and stuff in between as well?
Well,
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
me with like say doing
Perfect.
20 or 30 ounces. I'll do about 4 or 5 of them and set them aside, and then on that sixth one, I'll go back and start cleaning.
Mhm.
I'll start cleaning, and between the 3 to 4 minutes it takes to do a full engraving design or logo or whatever, I've already cleaned off a cup. I got a new one ready to go in, and I just swap
Yeah.
them out, and I keep doing it, and then it becomes just a cycle.
Assembly line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't think it's that beneficial. Some people like the idea, but I just don't think it's worth pursuing for me anyways. I mean, if someone wanted to get the stuff to try to do it themselves, I've got it, but it's not something worth trying to perfect or or anything on my end as far as I'm concerned.
Tell you what would be very beneficial: fiber support, or
Well, I've
CO2
got
gantry, Galvo support on the Rotoboss.
Oh, I got it. I got
Do you?
on my Facebook page or my YouTube page, not the new one I just started, but the JER Custom Designs. If you go in there, I got 3 or 4 videos about tinkering with doing fiber. But I got busy with everything else, and I never finished pursuing it. But it is in there. It is doable. It's the initial setup and everything is very taxing because there's not a lot of adjustments to use to make corrections between being a chuck and being a rotary.
Yeah.
But the benefit to it is being basically a 1-to-1 gear ratio. It's easier to do it than if you had like a 2-to-1. Like some of the other rotaries, they have like a 20 tooth and then they have 40 tooth on the wheels. That would cause more of an issue. But the 1-to-1 gear ratio, it works out pretty well. It wasn't something consistent enough, in my opinion, to try to push as a viable option at the time, and I just haven't had time to finish it up. But it does work. There's no doubt about it. It does work. It's just it needs more time and like research and stuff to try to figure out the nuances.
Yeah, I might have to start looking into that, because
Now-
playing with the chuck ones is horrible. Just
yeah.
chucking them repeatable, right?
Yeah.
And
Now-
getting, so if you're gonna go batch out a bunch of stainless steel ones, right? I'm just assuming
I've got a new
put
fiber
some
laser
Ceramark.
on its way. I've got a new fiber laser because I'm ditching the Boss that I have. But I'm getting a new fiber, and I'm actually getting a new 60 watt Galvo.
Okay, CO2 Galvo.
CO2 Galvo, which I don't know. I don't know if anybody's dealt with them, if they run off of EasyCAD 2 or not.
It
or
will.
EasyCAD 3.
I
Is
think
it? Okay.
it should still run off of that, I think.
Okay, so that still might be an issue. But the only benefit to the CO2 I can see is on the problem with the fiber is you have your split line, or your split mark. You have to do everything in split mark with it because the way it engraves, it bounces all over the place instead of just doing a single line as it rotates. So you got to do it in split line where it does like 10
I gotcha.
sectors at once. 10
Because
sectors
the
at
rotary,
once, turns.
the rotary is designed to do a line advance, do a line advance, do a line advance,
Yep.
like we're used to seeing. But with the fiber, you're right, it is all over the place.
On the
Or can
fiber,
be.
it's meant to continuously rotate unless you do your split mark. But on a chuck, that's fine. But on a rotary, it's a little bit different, mainly because of the gearing.
Because it's not directly
geared,
driven.
Yeah, it's geared too high to do a consistent turn like on a chuck.
Mhm.
So it makes it a little bit more difficult. So you have to do a split mark, which is basically you can tell it, I want to do 5, 10, 15, 20 sectors. It's going to do those sectors, and then it's going to turn 20 sectors, do another 20, turn 20, do another 20, and that's how it's going to engrave. If you watch one of the videos, I did a continuous, and it actually worked. But that was towards the end of what I was messing with. So I don't know if that'll work. And with the Thunder, hopefully, I don't know if there's talk of them coming out with an open
They're still messing
kind of
with their.
setup.
I'm sure the rotary that they're going to send out's one of those chucks. You know,
Well, no,
just
I mean
your
like
standard.
open,
I understand.
open structure.
Right, I know, and I'm alluding to that. They're dealing with a rotary right now, and they are trying to figure out a way to deal with the enclosure. So they won't get rid of it, but they may make a way where you can easily and correctly disable the interlocks without changing the config.
What's their problem with not their issue of not wanting
Their
to
issue
be
is they
a
don't
class
want it to
one?
be a non-enclosed machine. They want it to only work with the door down because this is so much different animal than CO2. You know.
No, I know, but I just didn't know if it was because there's so many out there that are open whatever you want to call it, open platforms, to where it doesn't seem like it'd be an issue for them to be able to produce and sell them in the U.S.
But
I
to be
understand.
certified, they are.
Well, UL,
The
yeah, to be
FDA to
UL,
certify
to
them,
be,
they are.
yeah. No, I get it, but
So, yeah,
I don't know.
they, and that may be something. Again, this is their first foray into the fiber world too.
Yeah.
So this is an evolution. Uh, I'm sure there'll be some advancements. They're already talking about on the Pro series. They come with the EasyCAD 3 now, so you got the full 3D on the Pros on the MOPA.
Yep.
So that'll be cool. And they're making more changes. Their MOPA is only a 20 watt, so I think they may be looking at maybe getting the power up at some point.
Yeah,
I don't think
opted away from MOPA because I don't. If you get the what is it, the JP or JPT or
JPT.
whatever tube,
Yep.
it's almost essentially a MOPA. You can still manipulate.
Well, so that's something. So the JPTs are MOPA, but they're fixed pulse width rather than variable pulse width. So you get 1 to 600 kilohertz frequency instead of topping out at 80 or whatever it is the Rakis does.
Yeah, mine.
So you can get
out at 80.
Yeah, you can get color. Right, so I've got a 50 watt JPT, and you can get a lot of color, and you can get but it's not like the M7 JPT MOPA that does 4,000 kilohertz, and it's got variable pulse width. So you can get true reds and blues where I can get like a hint of red and kind of a metallic engraving.
Yeah. I got some accidents. Yeah, when I was doing mine, some accidental color.
Yep. I've gotten some brown, some red, some blue with just the 0 to 80 that I have.
Yep.
But you really gotta tweak the numbers.
When you get up into the higher ranges, right? So like on slate, I can get like a white, a dark brown, and like a tan in between. So you can do 3 different colors on slate coasters, which is really nice. PMags is another one. You can get 3 distinct colors, and you can actually get a pretty consistent with like a darker brown that gives you almost like a textured feel on the PMags, where you can play with the settings and then obviously your different polymers for firearms and stuff of that nature. You can play with the settings in it. Everyone's polymer blend is slightly different.
Yeah.
So that higher frequency range helps.
Especially the fiberglass ones. I hate those.
Yes. Yeah, but, SIGs are tough.
But yeah. So yes, to answer your question, it will work. But
I hadn't looked. I just know the chuck's a pain.
Yeah, well, the chuck, and that's kind of what started me down this whole rotary path was the chuck, because I used the chuck because I had the fiber and it worked a lot faster. But the problem is, like, if you have the stainless steel and you chuck it from the inside, it stretches it out, so then your lids don't fit. Or if you chuck it from the outside, if you don't put anything on there to keep it from slipping, it'll just shoot off the end of it. Or and trying to get it level and true,
Yeah,
and
and
everything is
getting it
is a,
perfectly level and
yep.
square and rotating just right's a pain as well.
And depending on
Just
which
assume.
chuck you have, some of them don't pivot. Like the one I have, it rotates up and down. Some of them are fixed. So if you have a tumbler like a 30 ounce with the taper, you can't correct for that
Oh,
taper with some of the
e-
chucks.
exactly, because
So
it's you can
Of
adjust
course,
the angle.
these lenses are awful forgiving. I mean, we're looking at focal distances of what, feet, not not
what are
inches.
you
So
what are you
it ought
talking
to be
about?
pretty
Oh,
forgiving, even if there is a taper
For which one?
mm,
on
Fiber?
the. Yeah, you talking on the fiber, using the rotary
Yeah,
on the fiber?
yeah, but the
what?
fiber, you only have so much. You only, like on my 110 lens, I've got maybe half-inch deflection, and then I got nothing.
Yeah.
Like to do a
Well,
30 ounce, I have to use my 300 millimeter, which is a 7-inch lens or
Gotcha.
7.5-inch lens, to even get a full 3 to 3.25 inch design on a 30 ounce cup. And even
Hmm.
then, it's kind of pushing the edge, where the edges, if you're not careful, depending on the design, will kind of flare out and kind of get
yeah,
distorted a little bit if you're not careful.
Hmm.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
these
The issue
still
you
have,
run into is because you're doing it at an angle, right? With the Galvo swinging
yeah,
that lens, so you're hitting it at an angle, so you lose a lot of your power as well. So your
yeah,
edges get washed out, even though you've got the variable focus. If you were
yeah.
Hmm.
playing with it, 90 degrees, right, like a perfect straight down top into the
Hmm.
focus rather than on the edge, it's fine. You can
Well, I
be
mean,
in and out of focus.
I'm running a 20 watt too. If I was running a 50 watt, that would that would probably be not so much of an issue, because the more power you have, obviously, the more density of the beam, and the further out you can go without having distortion. But um,
The problem you run
but you
into there
still,
though is you make up for the edges and then it screws up the where you're in focus. Right, so
well,
I've
yeah. I
played
mean,
with it on like
there's
the
there's a
30.
there's a
Yeah,
fine
it's
line you have to walk there.
yeah,
But that's why I opt for CO2, even though it takes longer. Unless you have a good, reliable rotary system for the fibers, it it's not practical to me on a fiber, because
Hmm.
the swap out times and everything, it just takes so long to do.
and the other thing you run into, unless you dial those settings perfect, right? If you're doing powder coated ones rather than just a stainless, right? That
Yep.
you can do it on the fiber and pick the powder coating off, but you can also etch the metal out, right? If you're slightly off. So
Yep.
yeah, ideal is a CO2 Galvo with a good rotary, right?
Yep. Working
All
on it.
right. Well, cool beans. I'm gonna stop this thing. We're a little over.